Hey everybody, welcome back to the Eddie Wilson channel. Today I'm excited to welcome Katie Altomare, a dedicated leader in our parish's youth ministry. In this episode, we'll explore Katie's personal faith journey, her calling to the youth ministry, and her insights on how programs like youth ministry and the Knights of Columbus can work together to strengthen our parish community. Katie, before we dive into all that, I just wanted to take a moment to thank you for being here, for the incredible impact you're making on our youth. It's such a gift to share your time and your story with us. So just to begin, is there anything on your heart you'd like to share before we get started?
Yeah, thanks, Eddie. Thanks for having me. I think this is a really, unique opportunity and a great way to kind of spread the message of what we're doing here in youth ministry. And like you said, get the Knights of Columbus connected, which they always are, and we'll get into that. But yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Beautiful. So we're going to just start with your faith journey. So the first question I have for you is just to share a little bit about your early years and how faith was part of your family life growing up.
Yeah. So I was born and raised in Montville. I was baptized at St. Pius. My parents were parishioners here. And when I was in elementary school, my mom was a catechist. So we were, in mass most Sundays, try to make it as often as we could. And, I had that extra connection with my family of my mom being my religious formation teacher for a couple of years. And, my friends' parents were teachers too. If I wasn't going to mass with my parents, my extended family, my cousins, aunts, uncles, all lived in town at the time. So we would always kind of go together as well. I'd say like growing up, like mass was definitely a priority in our household. And I think that's how both my parents were raised. My mom's Irish, my dad's Italian. So I think that was just kind of their upbringing. And that's what they continued with our family. Kind of growing up after elementary school, like into high school, I joined youth ministry at St. Pius X when Kurt Kalinowski was the youth minister. And my older cousins who lived in town, they were also part of youth ministry before me. So they kind of brought me in too. And, I did a couple of the retreats that we were doing then. So Search and Antioch. So I got to spend some time with my family and also meet some new people along the way.
Did you ever go on like a trip to out of the country or different states or stuff?
No, everything was local. Yeah, it would be a really awesome opportunity, but haven't done that yet.
Okay, I'm not trying to.
Oh, that's okay. That's
Yeah, I
okay.
didn't do any of that stuff. But I kind of don't really like. What was some of the stuff that you guys would do around the community?
Yeah, so still a lot of some of the things that we still do now. We had the Santa breakfast every year. We would do the crop walk for hunger in the fall and raise have like a food drive and do the walk. We used to actually walk over to Lincoln Park and do it there, but now since after COVID, we kind of had to localize it a little bit. So that's why now we walk at St. Pius. But we did a lot of those same community service projects, which it's really cool for me to kind of be on the other side of that now and kind of get to lead them. But a lot of the time I spent in youth ministry was focused on those retreats, which were like peer retreats. So sophomores through seniors got to go. And if I went as a sophomore, and then junior year and senior year, I was part of the team and leadership. So kind of getting to run the retreat, give some talks, run some small groups. So that was a real, like when I think back on youth ministry, those are really the big, like meaningful impacts that it had.
Cool. So as you're growing up, it seems like you had family, you had friends, like you kind of were. This was like a social thing. Like you want to see your friends. Like that was one of the best parts about school for me. I didn't like the learning, but I had friends there, so that's what makes it great.
Yes.
Was there a part in your early life where your faith, when it went from this isn't just a community get together or just because my mom said so, like when you actually found the Lord?
Yes. I feel like I knew growing up just based on my upbringing that, the Lord was always with me. And, I knew, I remembered all the things that I learned in CCD, but I really feel like the time that I felt a real deep connection wasn't really until college, which is kind of crazy, even though I was part of youth ministry and that was all wonderful and it was great. And I definitely felt like I had a really strong faith in high school, but I feel like it was a deeper understanding in kind of a different way. So having that great community in high school was wonderful. And when I went away to college, I went to the University of Delaware, and I felt like the first part of freshman year was like a difficult adjustment, right? It was the first time living away from home. Both my grandparents were diagnosed with Alzheimer's. There was a lot going on at home, and I felt like I was like so far from it. And being kind of separated from that community that I had kind of made it challenging for me to turn to my faith, when like that's looking back on it, like of course that's what you should have done, right? That's what it's there for, to lean on in those difficult times. And instead I kind of pushed all of that away, and it felt like difficult for me to find a new community at school. And so instead of kind of pushing through that discomfort in the beginning, I kind of shied away from it. So after college, I really felt like a piece was missing. And that was like me personally wanting to come back myself and like continue to learn more about my faith and strengthen that relationship with the Lord. And it wasn't so much in high school that was like my mom's telling me I have to go. Like I loved being a part of it. I wanted to be there, and I wanted to, be on those leadership teams and kind of take that next level. But I felt like it was a deeper understanding, like into adulthood almost, that really kind of brought me back.
Was there any types of prayers or saints or stories that kind of push you back in that direction?
Yeah, I feel like this is could be a basic answer, but truly, like when you break down the Our Father, like something that I struggle with is kind of like letting go and giving up control and fully putting my trust and faith in God. So when I really break down what the parts of that prayer mean, like thy will be done, like knowing that like his plan is the plan for me, and like there's nothing I could say or do that's going to make that plan better. And really just laying everything at the Lord's feet and fully trusting him was still is something that I'm working on, but definitely was something that helped me along the way for sure.
Is there a specific time that you can remember where you're like, Lord, just take this from me. Like I'm gonna give this to you. I know I don't have control of this. Please just take the wheel here.
There's many times, plenty of times that's happened, but I really think once I realized what that piece was that I felt like was missing with all of that, like disconnection from home, and I was very concerned about, my family and like further down the line, like what was going to happen with my parents or with me. Like I felt like I was so concerned about what could possibly happen in the future, and there's no way to ever know or fully plan for that or be ready for that. So that was kind of my point, to be like, whatever is going to happen is going to happen, and it's going to be part of your plan, and just please take this worry from me, because it's just a lot, and you care about your family and you worry about them. And I think having that moment to be like, okay, it's in his hands now, and whatever is going to happen is what's meant to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
um, that's such an easier said than done kind of thing. And until
Mhm.
you kind of go through it, it is hard to describe. In my own life, I have 4 young daughters, and when I go to work, I'm a fireman, so I sleep at work. So some nights I'm away from my family, and early on, I would really worry, like, what if something happens and I'm not there, and there's nothing I could do to help them, and
Mhm.
I would have this anxiety that it would be hard to make it go away. It would hard to even get any sleep.
Yeah.
And then as my faith starts to grow, and I really do put my trust in, I could be at work and I could pray Hail Mary, Our Father, and I could just know that it's in the Lord's hands, and it really does it just goes away. I don't have the same kind of anxieties holding me down.
Yeah.
But to build up to that is, for me, it took a certain amount of trauma. The Lord was really putting me through it, like, because I didn't want to, like, I really wanted to hold on to that, like,
Yeah.
no, I can do this, because when I turned away from a long time, and it was all on me. Everything's on me. I need to make all the moral decisions. I need to make all the decisions for my family. Is this right? I'm the one that's got to figure it out. And
Hmm.
once you realize, no, it's been figured out. You have a job to do, and the job is to serve. And I think you went through the muscle memory of it so young, with and it was ahead of you. All the people ahead of you were doing it, so you're kind of following that path of, righteousness. And then
Yeah.
so, when you finally come back, it's like, oh, yeah, I already have the scaffolding for this.
Yes, exactly.
That's not really a question, but how do you feel about that?
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and I think that's kind of the piece that I want to give to the kids who are in the program now, is just give them those tools and give them the foundation and the scaffold that, like you said, that they need, so that later in life they have that, right? They have it, whether that strength stays the whole time, which is always the plan, right? Which is always the goal for all of them. But even if, they do turn away at some point, they know that they can always go back, and it does kind of become like riding a bike, like, oh yeah, like this is what it feels like to walk with the Lord, and like feel this peace, right? To know that he's with you, and how to strengthen that relationship with him.
Yeah, and it's not like the anxiety, like, for me, it doesn't completely go away. It's
No.
not gone. It
No.
come when the trouble comes.
Mhm.
If you focus on the prayers and the Lord, then that's when it starts to go. If you forget and then you stay, what am I supposed to do here? I,
Hmm.
then it will come back. Like, it could always come back. You could always turn back away. Like, if you turned away once and you come back, it doesn't mean you can't turn away again.
Yes.
Okay, so that goes right into every episode. I like to do a little bit of scripture. For today's episode, we're going to focus on Proverbs 22:6, which says, "Train up a child in the way he should go. Even when he is old, he will not depart from it." So this passage is the reminder of what we were just talking about. The seeds, if we plant in the hearts of children, it will shape their path, and it highlights the enduring impact of early guidance and formation, especially in faith. So how does this scripture and kind of what we've been talking about resonate with you?
Yeah, absolutely. When we kind of try to explain to someone like what is youth ministry, what do we do here, I kind of try and break it into three pieces, and this is what Kurt has kind of relayed to me is that we have like three core pillars, right? We have the spiritual, we have the service, and we have the social. So we're trying to give these kids all three pieces, right? Obviously, trying to help them understand where their faith is in their life and how they can see that every day, especially as high schoolers. Now they've already been confirmed, right? Their weekly like religious education is finished, right? They don't have that on their schedule every weekend to be coming into the school to be formally learning in the classroom. So now where do you kind of take that from there, right? Where are you going to continue your learning, and how are you going to continue to strengthen your relationship with God? And the service piece, is instilling in them how important it is to serve others and to serve your community and to give back, especially when you're not doing it for a service credit, right? Doing it because that's who you signed up to be as a Catholic, right? That's part of who we are, and that's part of what we do for one another. And the social piece too, giving them that safe space to know that there are people who share that faith and share that passion, and that it's a place where we're all learning and growing together. So trying to plant those little seeds in those three buckets, I think is really the goal, right? So once they graduate and go off to college or wherever they're going after high school, right? Knowing how to go back and read the Bible and where to find passages, and even just those simple things that, yes, of course we were taught in religious formation, but now as an adult, right? How do I, if that's somewhere that I find comfort, how am I going to go back and do that? So now they know how to do that. They know the parts of the mass so that they can really understand, kind of connect with it without just going through the motions. And they know that there's a community of peers out there. And I think that those are things that we try to kind of plant now to take with them later.
Yeah. After I got confirmed, you know, I was like, sayonara, I did it.
Yep, you're not alone.
So what specifically, let's go back in time. I just got confirmed,
Hmm.
and you find that I drifted away. How do you stay back in touch with these people that you might think, they just left? You think that they're going to come back and help, but they're not really part of it.
Well, I try to make the program as open and inviting as possible. I relate it to them in the beginning of the year. I'm like, this is not really like your typical club at school or a sports team where if you don't come to practice, you don't play in the game, right? This door is always open for you, no matter what your season is, no matter what your schedule looks like, because these kids are busy, right? They have a lot going on. And I don't want this to feel like another thing that they have to do, that they have to come to, right? I want them to know that that door is always open, whether you come to one meeting a year or you come to every single meeting, whatever it is, you're always welcome in here. And I think the biggest piece is just to keep reaching out, right? To keep sending those emails, keep, talking to them after mass, keep getting their friends to text them and try to come to the meeting, right? Just to keep giving them that invitation. And you hope that at one point they do, and trying to make that one meeting, whatever, or one event, one moment, one conversation, the thing that's going to, keep them coming back. But I think for me, really consistency, right? Trying to continue to invite them no matter what happens, and have them know that this door is always open.
So when you talk about a meeting, what kind of meetings, besides events, like how would a meeting go?
Yeah. So I try every month for high school. We have a meeting, and it's an hour and a half, usually Monday or Wednesday nights. And depending on what we're doing throughout the year, like in December, we had a meeting to prepare for the Santa breakfast, right? We made the signs for the craft tables and like took all the tags off the hats and talked about all those things. But throughout the year, we'll have different meetings, and we'll have topics like in the spring, we talk about growth and, how are you going to grow with the Lord, and what does growing in your faith look like? What does that mean? Right. So I'll usually have some kind of like overarching topic that we'll talk about, and we do some small groups, we talk and we share out with the group. And I like to try to do some kind of like concrete activity to like kind of bring it all in. So my favorite one in the spring is we plant flowers. Everyone leaves with a little flower pot after we talk about, how we're going to grow with the Lord. So usually that's kind of how our meetings run. Is they come in, we do some icebreakers, we play some games, we'll have some conversations, do some small groups, and do some kind wrap up with some kind of activity. But that's not really how it was structured when I was in high school, because we were so retreat focused, which was great and I loved that, and I try really hard to bring that back. But it's really challenging to run a whole like weekend long retreat to try to organize all of that. So I did do a smaller retreat this past spring with just juniors and seniors, and I kind of took bits and pieces of our search outline, and I had kids come on team and kids come on leadership, and they wrote talks and they gave them to their peers, and it was great. We had a really great time. So I'm trying to incorporate little pieces from my experience and bring that back, but I also tried to had to figure out, what does this look like now, right? What does our program look like now and not 10 years ago? That part has been a bit of a challenge, but I feel now that we have a really good kind of routine going. And yeah, so we'll usually start those hour-and-a-half meetings that way. And I try to do those once a month. And something new that happened, which was very cool. And I don't know if maybe we want to talk about this later, but one of our members, she was a junior at the time, wanted to start a Bible study,
Mm.
which I've never run a Bible study before. I'd never been part of a Bible study before, but I was all for it. I'm like, we're going to do this together. We're going to learn together and figure it out. And so now before the meeting, so we really meet starting at 6 o'clock, and we have Bible study for an hour. Everyone tries to read before we come, and we just kind of talk about, things that stood out to us. We look up things on the internet that we don't know. Like the Bible Project has really great resources for videos and little explanations. But that's been really, really awesome as well. And that was not something that I had in high school. So that was a cool new addition that they brought to me, which I thought was awesome.
Yeah, that's the most beautiful is when they're going to come to you. And I mean, that's, I'm a fireman, I'm a captain. I studied leadership. And one of the main things about leadership is I'm not going to give everything from the top down. If you can get somebody to give you an idea that's like 90% there, 80%
Mhm.
there, and it's their idea, they're
Yep.
going to give the full passion to it and it's going to grow. As opposed to if I give them my 100% idea and they don't see it exactly the same way or they think it's something else, they're not going to give it the same kind of effort. So
Yeah.
that's beautiful that you're kind of giving them that, a little bit of the reins to choose for themselves how they want to do it and kind of stoke that fire that they already have. Another thing I love about it is, yeah, they are busy, but guess what? You have a family, you got kids, you're always going to be busy.
Yep.
Busy is forever. So if you
Yes.
can get into the routine of fitting in this importance early as
Hmm.
you grow, you'll always find a way to fit it in. Same thing with the Knights of Columbus. They got the same mentality. I don't need to show up to every meeting. I don't need to show up to every event. Try to do your best. You know
Yep.
when you can make it. You know you can make that little extra effort, and once you start to do it. I went the other night, and Jerry Santa Claus gave a beautiful speech, and I was so proud to be a part of it and to help, and for my kids they loved it. They had the best time at the Santa breakfast, and it was my first time there. I mean, I should have been going. And that's how I always feel about all these things. Like I should have been doing this, but that's how you know that you're doing it right now. Because I now next year it's going to be even better. I'm going to do a little more to help prepare,
Hmm.
because it's such a beautiful tradition. The parishes from all around come around. The Knights of Columbus, the other groups, they talk about us like that. That Santa breakfast is a big deal.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's part of what we're talking about in Proverbs. If you can give them these examples of it, and you could get them to just a little bit here. Look, you could fit it here, and now when you get older, oh yeah, it's just a routine of it, and then maybe they come up with even more ideas, and then maybe they take the reins. And I think that's one of the things our generation, you know, we're at the fumbling line here, where we need to get the baton handed to us fully so that we could take over. Us, the generations behind us, because
Mhm.
the church is a lot older. The
Yes.
Knights of Columbus, especially, is very old, the average age.
Yes.
So that's why we're doing this. This is a more new age kind of thing. When I talk to these guys, they got no idea about this. They don't listen to podcasts, but this kind of stuff's going to live on way past us. And if people part of our parish could see, if I could see, my grandfather was part of the parish since the '60s.
Hmm.
I wish, I mean, I'm doing this for him. If
Yeah.
I could have had an interview with him to share, to show other people what he was like, I need to get Jerry on here. People need to know,
Yes. Jerry
who
would be a great guest.
of course he would. I need, but
Yeah. No, it's awesome.
uh,
That's exactly it, right? Giving, whether it's you're setting up or you're just there to participate, as long as you are there, right? Just being a part of it in some way. The hope is that you leave wanting to come back, right? Wanting to try again and wanting to see kind of what it's all about. And I was definitely nervous in the beginning, like starting this job. I'd never worked with high school kids before. I'd never worked with middle school kids before. I'm an elementary school teacher full time. So that's not my population, right? And I was really nervous. I
that's
didn't
a scary
know.
population. That's the scariest of all populations. I don't want anything to do with them. Even when I was a teenager, I didn't want to do it. I didn't talk to any teenagers.
Yeah. And I was nervous. I was like, are they, how am I going to connect with them? Do they want to connect with me? Do they want to be here? Like I didn't know. And I was very pleasantly surprised. I mean, people will say, but they'll say like, right, teenagers are scary. They're really hard to connect with. But at the end of the day, like connection is all they want. Like they want to, know that even if they're not the most vocal, if they're not going to like speak up at every meeting, there are still kids who come to every single meeting and might only participate once. But the fact that they're coming back says it all to me, that they want to be part of this, right? In whatever capacity works for them, but they want to be a part of this. And that's something that has been really awesome to see now that I've been doing it for a couple of years. Seeing the kids that do come back year after year has been really, really great.
Since you've been doing it, is there anything specific that you've changed or learned in that process to to help ease that bridge to connect with them?
Yes, I think part of it kind of had to start with me. I think when I started the position, I thought that I would be doing the exact same thing that I did when I was in high school. And like I said before, times have changed, right? The program has changed, the population of kids has changed, like therefore the activities and things that we're doing need to change. And I think once I kind of let go of that, of trying to make it exactly what it was, I think everything else became so much easier because I wasn't trying to like force this group into the box that already existed, right? I tried to make a new box for the kids that were already here. And I think the biggest thing in order to kind of ease that bridge with, getting them to feel comfortable is building that relationship with them. It's just like teaching, right? Whether it's with fourth graders or with 12th graders, right? It's the same thing. Getting to know who they are and just having conversations with them, I think makes all the difference because they know that when they come back, this is a very safe space, right? Like I ask questions all the time, right? We look stuff up together, things that we don't know in Bible study or things that we're not sure of how they kind of fit together. And I think just seeing that human side of it, that like, okay, yeah, she might be running this program, but like she's a person too, right? She doesn't have all the answers and she's not here to correct me. Because that's not my job. I'm just here to make them feel welcome and to help them with on their walk with the Lord. So I think building those relationships is a huge piece of it, for sure.
So when you're doing these meetings, you run them by yourself, or you have helpers?
Yeah, it's me.
Just you?
Yep, it's me. So, yeah, I run them by myself, pretty much.
How many kids on average do you usually get to show up?
It definitely varies throughout the year. I would say in the fall, like when everyone comes back to school, that's like our first meeting of the year. We have like over 50 kids.
Oh wow,
Yeah, which is a lot. And I
that's a
know
crazy
it's,
ratio. 50 to 1's
yeah,
crazy.
it's a lot. It's a lot. So I found things that work, and we found like little things that work for us, right? You think of like a teacher trying to manage a class of 50 kids or like screaming, and all of us were just,
Yeah.
we wait and everyone else goes quiet and they all put the
Yeah.
peace sign up. And I'm like, why does this work with high school? It's so funny. Like, just finding the things that work. It's crazy. But yeah, it's somehow manageable. We make it work. And throughout the year, I would say on an average meeting, probably between like 15 to 25, I would say.
All right, that's definitely more manageable. 50. That's
Yes.
if you were doing 50 every week. That's
Yeah, that would be last year. We had quite a few, and I had to split the meeting time in half. So it'd be like freshmen and sophomores come for the first 45 minutes, juniors and seniors come for the second 45 minutes. And again, like the numbers change every time we have a meeting because it's not like your typical like club where they need to be there for a certain amount of hours or a certain amount of meetings. It's kind of just come when you can. So the numbers always change, but I would say on average between 15 to 25.
It sounds like you need more help. Have you had guest speakers or guests help at all ever?
I haven't, and that's actually something that I would really love to do. I really just hadn't even thought of it because I feel like the first couple year, like doing it, just trying to go through like, okay, what does a whole year in youth ministry look like and kind of planning that out. I
Mhm.
feel like this is really the first year that I don't have to like fully plan it because I'm going based on years past now that we've been through a full school year. So now that we're there, I'd love to, add more and kind of enhance it. But yeah, I would love to do that. I think it can be challenging with the timing because they're weeknights from 7 to 8:30. So, people who have young families, that's a challenging time, which I completely understand. But yeah, that's definitely something that I'd like to do now that I feel like we're more solidified in our kind of our schedule. But for now, no.
Well, what if I just showed up and then I sat in the corner and just watched? Like, I don't want to interact with them. I
Yeah,
just want to observe and listen to the Bible study. Maybe raise my hand. Could
yeah,
I do that? I'll act like a teenager.
yeah. You can do that. Definitely.
Um, yeah, that's part of what I want to do. Actually, is like all these kids know social media. They know it better than we do. That
Mhm.
the technology they've grown up in it. If we could find ways to that's what I want. I want to find ways for these kids to express themselves in we could be the bumpers for them, but to kind of see what they could take it because everybody's got a phone. You put a microphone in front of them and see what we could do, the Q&A, that kind of stuff, and see what you bring clips together. Like, what are you guys looking at? What's a clip on TikTok you've seen, or reels, or a YouTube video that you've seen, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
If we have any problems, we just ask the priest, like,
Mhm.
here's where we are, what do you think about this?
Mhm.
I don't think it could go too off the rails, and I don't know, who knows though. That's what scares me about kids, because you don't really know. They keep
Yeah.
stuff under wraps with
Yes. And so that's like the phones is definitely something that I was nervous about because you see the videos on, like, you see these crazy things on the internet. I'm like, wait, we're all on the same internet? I'm like,
Yeah,
how
yeah.
are we all seeing the same thing? But yeah, I think because like the youth ministry, we have an Instagram. And so I try to take pictures at meetings, and
Mm,
some of them in the beginning were like, no, no, I don't want to. And now they're like,
right,
is it
right.
going on the gram? And I'm like, yeah, yeah. I'm like, here we go. So trying to do that, but also people go into the internet with the best, most of them go into the internet with the best intentions, right? And at the end of the day, like, it's our job to also like keep them safe and kind of help them, make sure that everyone would be on board with any of that. That's the piece that, I don't want to say takes the fun out of it, but makes it a little bit more challenging. Is unfortunately not everybody uses the internet the correct way, and other
I know,
people.
even when I'm saying it and thinking about it, it's like so dangerous,
Mhm.
and you want to keep the phones away from them as long as possible, but it's inevitable. Like, the internet is going to get a hold of them at some point. So
Yeah.
if you can get ahead of it and say, hey, here's how we're using it,
Yep.
what's the topic of the day? I think about it in the way of, how can we talk to the older generation? If you make an easy video for them to watch, like, here's what we're doing,
Hmm.
here's what it looks like, because that's kind of what I'm trying to do with the Knights. Like, people have no idea what the Knights of Columbus do. I didn't know. I showed up. I was like, what do we do here?
What's going
So,
on?
yeah, I want to kind of give people a glimpse into, you're not the only youth ministry. There's youth ministry all over the place,
Yep.
and they're doing wonderful things. And the kids are having this guidance that I just think is so necessary to bridge into the next part of their life. Because that's part of why it's so scary to deal with teenagers, because they're literally in transition, and you're watching them grow. Like, it goes so quick,
Yeah.
and it's scary. They don't know. They've never been there. Like, we've already been there. We know what it's like to be a teenager. So when you see some of the steps that they're taking, you're like, maybe don't do that one. I took that one already.
Maybe I won't do that, actually.
But
Yeah.
then the kids learn and they do it different. Somebody like me, I need to step on the rake and get hit in the face with it and be like, oh yeah, they were right about that one.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, when I got involved with like social media and doing podcasts and stuff, it wasn't for God or for the church or that. It was kind of for what I was doing. I was doing jujitsu and stuff, and I was just all towards that. And there was no guardrails on it. It's just my own morality. Now, when I'm making something, it's always with the church in mind. Like, is this allowed? What is allowed? What are the rules?
Yes.
And if we could show the kids, how to do that,
Hmm.
you still have so much room for creativity, and it's not as constricting as you think.
Yeah.
And it really makes you focus and think about, what you're doing. What am I putting out into the world? Even if it's not recorded, how am I responding to these people or to these stresses in the world? And you'll get feedback. You put something on the internet and you feel proud about it. This is good. And then people come and they tell you they don't like it and it's terrible and how dare you. Then
Yep.
it makes you go, wait, what? I thought this was good. And then,
Right. And it becomes like, it feels like a personal attack on you, and
yeah.
that they have to know, like, going into that, like, that people are, that's just like not worth their time, right? Like trying to like dissuade that. And that's so hard. I feel like, especially at this age, because we all want to feel loved and accepted and like what we're doing is the right thing. And I think just some people are, they're just not like that, which is unfortunate.
Well, the question is, what is right?
Mhm.
And the world, the outside, the secular world, they got way different answers. I went and looked at all their answers. They're
Yeah.
not the same. They
No.
have different ones. And
Yes.
if you are living in a world where you grow up, everybody's got the same answers. Like, oh yeah, obviously this, obviously that passage references this. When people say no, that book's completely false, fake, it doesn't matter what that book says. He was just a magician. Then
Hmm.
you go, wait a minute, what?
Yeah.
Now you start to question everything, and maybe it's somebody you respect, because that's what happened to me. I ran into atheists that I respected them in this other area so much, and you're like, well, hold on, if they're right about that, now that's when things start to get shooken up. If we
Hmm.
can kind of be over their shoulder and say, hey, here's the answer to this. All the answers already been that we've already had them 2,000 years of answers.
Hmm.
That's kind of, I would love to have those discussions with young people. I'm just afraid of the young people. That's all.
They're not scary, I promise. They're really fun and they're funny, and they really have great insight. I mean, it's really great to hear their faith journey, like from their perspective, like the way they think about it, because sometimes in the beginning, and I think this was like me feeling worried about connecting with them. I might be like, "Oh yeah, you might think like, I don't really feel like doing this, or I don't really feel like going to church." And they're like, "No, I go." I'm like, "Oh, okay." Right. Just me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, just me too.
But it's like, it really was great to really see that they do have like a completely different perspective, and it's just really, it's really nice to sit down and have conversations with them. So I promise they're not scary. They're all great. I
I
think
think
that
it's because the teenagers I've dealt with. I
yeah.
mean, I still do jujitsu, and I'm part of. When I was starting out, I used to help my teacher with young kids, and then you start to get up to the teenagers. So I deal with teenagers, but if you're doing jujitsu, you're kind of crazy a little bit.
Yeah. Which is fine. It's allowed.
So yeah, maybe you're right. I didn't deal with a lot of Catholic teenagers that were practicing their faith, so it is definitely an interesting thing to me, and it's definitely my thing is generational. Right now, I'm hanging out with the oldest generation, and I love it.
Yeah.
They have a perspective that you can't possibly have. We haven't been that far down the road yet, and
Yep.
they're there. So I just sit back and I listen, and I just try to do what I'm told. And luckily we have some great men in our parish that are in charge, and they have a lot of good works behind them.
Yes.
So I want to help transfer the knowledge of the works down as far down the generations that's going to understand. And I want to do it back the other way too. I want the younger generations to show that, exactly what you're saying. I want them to show that because I believe you. I believe that they do. And I
Yeah.
want to see it. And it's heartening. It's heartening for kids their own age that might be on the fence about it. It's
Hmm.
heartening for people in our generation that said, oh, wow, I didn't see it that way. I didn't even think they cared. They don't, because teenagers
Exactly.
are great at hiding it, and you don't even know what's going on there. They just blank stare and you don't know.
Yeah.
And I want to kind of get that out and to show them, it's all right to get out of your shell. And it's actually, you inspire us because not me yet, but I know you stay in the faith long enough, it could dim. You could dim. You just get kind of go through the motions,
Hmm.
get focused on earthly things, and it's easy to fall out of step. And to see somebody young and inspired, that definitely helps every generation. And I think the youth is the future. We when I was a kid, there was a lot more people in church. It's kind of sad what happens, and then COVID comes, and then it does even more damage.
Yeah.
But there's so much room I feel for growth. And talking to somebody like you, I didn't even know what's going. I don't know this is happening.
Yeah.
This is outside of my realm. I know what's going on with the Knights and the mass that I show up to, but you don't know what else is going on. So let's go into the Knights a little bit. What is your relationship with the Knights and your overall thoughts on the Knights of Columbus?
I think the Knights of Columbus are a wonderful, wonderful group. I think our parish is really, really blessed to have such a strong presence in the church and all of the support that they give to every aspect of our parish, right? And I think it's really, really great the things that they do for our community, and they're always so supportive of our youth ministry program. Anytime we have to work together for the Santa breakfast, or if we're sharing space in the narthex, like they're always so open and friendly and kind, and I just really truly appreciate all of that. My dad recently became a knight. My fiance is a knight. His brother is a knight. My future father-in-law is a knight of Columbus. So we definitely have a lot of connections, and I promise they didn't pay me to say those nice things about the Knights. Those are all genuine. But no, it's been a very positive experience for me always working with them, and I really appreciate that, especially with the kids, because they're two completely different generations, two completely different groups. And so I could definitely see, them being a little hesitant to work with youth ministry, and they always, welcome us with open arms, and I'm really grateful for that.
So we were just talking about the transition of connecting these generations. What
Mhm.
advice could you give the Knights in general for connecting with young teenage boys, specifically for when they become 18, 19, 20, where you could join the Knights?
Yeah.
What could we do to help that happen?
I think I thought that was a great. I think that's a great question, and I've given it some thought. And I think that it kind of starts like everything else. It needs to start at home, right? So I think the first step could be, trying to recruit parents of high school kids, fathers of high school kids, right? And when those kids are seeing their dad go to a meeting every Monday, or being with them at the Santa breakfast, their son's volunteering and dad is working in the kitchen or whatever it is, they're going to see that this is what you do as a member of the parish, right? This is the next step for me, right? When I graduate high school and, youth ministry is behind me, like where is my place now in the church? And it's with the Knights. And I think that really needs to be kind of like that middle ground. Of course, like having them have conversations with them at meetings is great, or not at meetings, at events is great. Like the Santa breakfast on Friday nights, like when the Knights are there setting up and they're working with a group of teenagers to like set up a table or whatever it is. But I feel because those events are so fleeting and they're so fast, I don't know that they really get to have those conversations to really get to know them. And so I think that kind of targeting that like middle group of, the fathers of these children, I think would really be great to kind of see them join when then they become of age.
That's a great idea. You know anybody?
I can ask, I can see.
uh, how do you talk about the Knights to the young men that are seniors and stuff like that about what they are? How do you teach them about the Knights?
So the Knights, like their experience with the Knights really is like the Santa breakfast, and like hearing about them in church. I think that something that would be great, like you mentioned, is having in the future like a guest speaker, like having you or some other Knights come to the meeting and just kind of explain what it's all about. I think that would be a really, really great thing to happen, because then they're not just hearing it from me, they're also getting like being able to actually ask questions that maybe might not be able to answer, right? Because I'm not a Knight, so I don't have all the answers. But actually being able to talk one-on-one in a different setting than just a quick conversation setting up for an event, I think that could be really meaningful and a great way to connect.
I was afraid you were going to say that. That's exactly what needs to be done. I got to put some kind of PowerPoint together. Yeah, do a Q&A. Then I actually have to know what I'm talking about. That's a lot of work.
Well, it didn't have to be you. You could get Jerry.
Well, yeah. I would try to facilitate it and then hand that off to somebody else. But for sure, that's what needs to be done. Because I think I just look retroactively. Like if I had a step right after you turn 18, like yeah, join the Knights. My grandfather was part of the Knights. The exact council that we're in, and I don't know. I just never knew it. I didn't really understand. So just to help them understand, like this is an option. Like it's not like I love how you're going about it. It's not forced, but just present it. If you can have somebody to present it to them, give me a hardest question, because this is the answer.
Right.
When I come back to the church, I was in it for a couple of years before I'm like, all right, what needs to be done?
Mm-hmm.
And when I went to confession, Father Jake said, Knights, that's what you should do. And that's what I listened. That's all you have to do. Listen to the priest. And if a priest is recommending you join the Knights, that's something right. And once you're part of it, when you talk about service, like that's what it is. That's the whole charity. That's part of your service. To love is charity, and the Knights do it. Have been doing it since the 1800s. You know, it was built for widows. That's what was the primary driver,
Mhm.
was for widows, because there wasn't these fail safes. You know, women stayed home. They didn't have a job. So when the breadwinner dies, now what? And that's what Father McGivney did. He brought these men together to help the community, to serve. And that's what Christ wants us to do. And that's the primary. Like, that's what you're supposed to, that's above everything. Like, it's not only that you should try to make time, but no, you should try to make this one of your main focuses.
Yeah.
And yeah, they will follow. If you do it, the youth, if you could show it to them, they will follow. And these men have been doing it in the dark, you know, basically. But I wasn't looking that hard. So I want to make it as easy as possible for people to see. And yeah, we have to show face at these kind of meetings to interact with them, and to, like, direct interaction. Like, what is on your mind?
Mhm.
And then I'll try my best to answer. Right now, I don't have all the answers. I've been a knight for 6 months. I don't know anything,
Yeah,
really.
it's okay. Yeah.
But I do have general questions, you know, about faith. And I've been in the Bible a lot, reading about the church fathers, and
Mhm.
I watch a lot of, Protestant versus Catholic, Orthodox versus Catholic videos, atheist versus Catholic, all those videos. I'm
Mhm.
watching them all. I want
Yep.
to see. Give me all the toughest ones. And they're really not that tough. There's really not that tough of questions. They've been answered already. Like, I don't have to give you my opinion. I'll give you St. Augustine's opinion. I'll give you Ignatius of Antioch's opinion. I'll give them. They all said it already.
Yeah.
And these guys are way smarter than me, and they were way closer to Christ than I'll ever be.
Mhm.
And yeah, I do want to share that with the youth. So definitely, we got to try to make this happen. Please help me.
Yeah. I would love that. I think that would be great. I think I'll bring it up to my contacts on the inside.
Perfect. Okay, so let's see. Finish this up here with a good one. Hopefully, let's see. Is there a main takeaway message you'd like to share with the youth, the parish in general? I mean, I guess there's two different messages. What's the message you have for the youth that you would share this video with?
Know that no matter what happens in your life, it's so easy to potentially like turn from your faith instead of, sticking with that discomfort and going to God and, leaning on him when you really need it. And I feel like especially for high schoolers, like now this is your community, right? These are your people, this is your place. And when you potentially leave or go somewhere else or that community gets disrupted, it can feel really scary and hard to like start over almost, but know that your community will follow you if you continue your faith, right? Continue practicing whatever that looks like for you and continue to like share the message that we try to teach every time, right? And the main one is to love your neighbor, right? Love your neighbor, put your trust in the Lord and know that he's always going to be with you no matter what. And know that when you look for people that, or when you find people that share those same values, like that becomes your new community. And so that community is always going to follow you if you know that you have the Lord with you.
Beautiful message. And for the non-youth, the elderly.
The elderly. Um, the non-youth, I would say, to continue to, strengthen the faith of the youth, right? To play that role, it starts at home, right? Just the way you view your faith is the way that your children are most likely going to view their faith. And so the practices that you're putting in place now, they're watching, right? They see everything. And making mass a priority and talking about faith at home, asking them questions about their faith and giving them the space to ask their own questions, I think is not only going to like strengthen family relationships, but also, strengthen your own faith and help strengthen the faith of your children and the youth of the parish.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Well said.
Thank you.
Okay, so to close this out, I'm just going to say a prayer. And then if you have any last things to say,
I don't think so.
you got it all out. Good.
I
I
think so.
think it was
I hope
beautiful.
so.
All right. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. Heavenly Father, thank you for the gift of this time together and for Katie's dedication to leading and inspiring our youth. We are grateful for her faith, her example, and her willingness to guide young hearts towards a deeper relationship with your Son, Jesus Christ. Bless her work and the efforts of all those who faithfully serve in ministry, teaching and encouraging the next generation to walk in your ways. May their love and commitment bear lasting fruit, drawing many closer to your truth. Strengthen us as a parish to support one another in this mission and grant us the wisdom and courage to live out our faith boldly, always reflecting your light. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Okay, I'd like to just thank you again for taking this time to do this with me and share this with the youth, share this with as many people as you can. And I definitely would love to talk to you again and get involved as, please help me, protect me from those young minds, but I definitely do want to help.
Yeah, wonderful. Thanks, Eddie. It's been great. And to you, hang on, I lost the screen. Oh, here it is. Okay, sorry. Thank you. No, thank you so much for having me. It was great. I would definitely love to, talk again and see how we can kind of connect our two ministries. I think that would be great.
All right, thank you.
I just want to thank you, Lord, for giving me the courage and the strength to carry on. Don't you know my life has been a book for you? Reading all the chapters, making mistakes my whole life through. I just want to thank you, Lord, for forgiving me